Today is Veterans Day 2015. Following are excerpts from an interview with Fred and his World War II war bride, Mary Jane. On November 21st, they will be married 73 years. How old were you when you got married?
He was
Mary
21,
Jane?
I was 17.
17, okay.
But I was already out of school. I was working already downtown because I got out of school early. Got out
Okay.
of school at 16 because they kept putting me ahead instead of dragging me back. Every time you moved, they'd put you back.
Right.
Instead of that, they kept pushing me forward. So I ended up out of school at 16. And I was working downtown, so.
And you guys were married how long before Fred had to leave?
We had a 2-day honeymoon.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later, we had another weekend in Ohio where he was stationed. And then he went away for 4 solid years.
So you didn't...
No, and in those days,
No.
you didn't talk to on the phone. You didn't do anything. You wrote letters, and when you wrote a letter, you had a page of, and you
Called
wrote the letter.
V-mail.
It was called V-mail.
And it's all censored.
And then they take that letter that you wrote, and they photograph it and make it into a little bitty letter. I have them all downstairs, all tied in little ribbons, because I kept them all for 4 years. And if you say anything that's going to hurt the war effort, anything, like I went to California, and I was in Los Angeles, and there was a lot of stuff going on in Los Angeles. If I said anything about where I was working at a war plant or anything, that was all blacked out. They blacked out. They read every letter that you wrote.
Sure.
And they erased anything. Sometimes you get a letter, there's nothing in it, you know.
You just...
I love you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank goodness.
I wrote a letter to my mom. She was mad because I wasn't telling her anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I got with the censoring officer, and they blocked it. They blotted out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I says, hey, my mom is really mad at me because I don't tell her nothing. He says, we'll fix that. Dear Mom, the is, and then, but there, and we, and stuff like that. The whole thing was nothing but blots, you know.
Blacks, yeah.
Right.
Black.
Love, Freddie.
Freddie.
My mother took that, she carried that letter for 4 years, showed it to everybody.
Aw.
How I was letting her in on the inside stuff.
Yeah.
What were you doing the 4 years that you were gone?
I was the Army Air Corps. There was no Air Force yet. Mm-hmm. And these were MP Company Aviation. And there were 200-man companies, and we guarded air bases in England. They weren't even built yet, you know. Mm-hmm. When we got over there, they were still laying the airstrips are easy to see from the air, but the living huts were all these Quonset huts, and they're scattered all out. We guarded that, and then we patrolled the whole Norfolk County. The Krauts are coming, and the Home Guard, the Limeys, are riding around on their bicycles with shotguns and sharp knives, and they're all part of early warning. Because if they come, we can't stop them, but we got to hold them a little
Right.
until they can get the heavy stuff up. But thank God they didn't come.
Right. So the 4 years that he was gone,
Yeah.
what did you do? You mentioned you worked at the war plant.
Yeah, I worked in Chicago. It was in the north part of Chicago. Douglas Aircraft. Then they made C-54s. I was an engineer. I did electric. I did all the electric wires and all the electric lights. This is a big hospital ship, and the guys used to jump out of the parachute. I mean, it was a huge plane, and we put one plane out every single day. That was amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. And this was a brand new building. I couldn't get over it because the floor was white
Ford
and the whole
55
top of it was
minutes.
glass. Can you imagine a factory making C-54s, it looking like that? It was unbelievable. I put 11 washers in every single light, and there must have been about 10 or 11 lights through. And then I did all the electricity for gets all the electric when you open up the thing and
The cockpit.
fix that. And then, well, finally, after a while, you're up like this, and you know, and my face was starting to break out. I went to the doctor and I said, well, what is wrong with my face? He says, well, you're getting that stuff that you're...
Hot aluminum.
So he says, I says, oh, that's it. I'm quitting that job. So I said, you'll have to get me something else to do. So then they gave me a job there was a whole room full of motors for these things. And I was painting the different color wires that you have, the red and the green and the yellow and whatever. And then I climbed in the wings and stamped everything, and I stamped the pilot, you know, where he's got all of his stuff. I put all the decals on them, on all of them.
And then you went to California.
And then I went to California, and I worked at Douglas Aircraft there too, but there was C-47s. C-47s? Yeah,
C-47s, they still use them all over the world.
Yeah, and I was working on a machine, an extruder. Now, there's a big
still
difference
building them.
between the one in California and the one in Chicago. The one in Chicago was magnificent, you know, like I say, it was unbelievable. Believe me, the one in California was old, very old. It had wooden floors and everything. California is a whole different world. That's a war is there, you know.
Right.
The one in California, they had a camouflage everything. So we would go, however you got there with your cars and everything, underneath the parking lot and everything. They made the whole top of the building became a farm.
roof,
became a farm with big
cows,
things of
fields,
fields
trees.
and trees and everything. And all of the, if anybody came over, they had sirens, you know. Well, those sirens are silver. Well, they made those into trees that just hang, you know, just hang. And you'd walk underneath all this stuff, you know, that's where you went to work. That was really something. That was a strange little place, yeah. The whole thing in California, when I went there, it was in 1942 or 43 by that time. God, California was absolutely magnificent coming from Chicago.
Sure.
And LA was a dream come true. And I got a ride from one of my cousins who lived in, not near there, but she came over to pick me up and take me for a ride. And she took me over and showed me all of the beautiful mountains and everything, you know, and there were houses all along this great big mountain. She said, "What do you think of that?" And I says, "Man, that's a lot of houses up there on that mountain." They weren't houses. Hollywood did that. They made cardboard houses or whatever so that they'd think that that was just houses because Lockheed was right there.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't want them going anywhere near Lockheed. But that was an amazing, amazing time.
And he was gone for 4 years.
4 years. And I did many other things. I traveled around and took different jobs. I ended up long-distance telephone operator in Chicago. I came back home. I would come back home back and forth, you know. And women did not have good jobs in those days.
Right.
A long-distance telephone operator was a really good job. They took care of their women. Well, when they found out that I hadn't talked to him or seen him for 4 years, long distance was 25 miles away from Chicago.
Sure.
I mean, my God, you can't even talk to those people, you know. So they said, "We're going to get him. We're going to catch him on the phone. We're going to let you talk to him," which was unbelievable in those days. So I said, "Okay." Well, then they called me back and they said, "We tried 3 times to find him, and we can't find him. He's on the move. He's going somewhere." They finally came back and they said, "He's on the move. He's going to the Queen Mary, and he'll be home in a week."
Oh, my gosh.
He'll be
Yeah.
home in a week.
In England, I got a call and I went and sat in the headquarters where the phone was for half a night because they said I had a call coming in. I went across on the Empress of Scotland and slept in a hammock. We jagged all the time. The submarines were thick. And I came home on the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in there with 14 guys, I think. Yeah, and I was near the hallway, see? I never even went to the window. Too many bodies. But we get to New York. The first thing that happens, you get off of the boat. You still have your barracks bag. And you get to the big room, and there's your steak dinner.
Wow.
Any way you want it, any cut you want, a steak dinner. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Then he put me on a train back to Camp Grant, and from there, I was discharged. Union Station. There are thousands of guys. These train loads
In
come
Chicago.
in. Union Station fills up with people. You can't even hardly move. And all their wives and mothers and families are getting them. So in about 20 minutes,
And
there's
family there
there's
also.
one lousy soldier left. He's in the middle of the lobby at parade dress. And down the aisle on the outside comes some woman with a red fur coat on.
Fox fur coat on. I couldn't believe it.
Who the heck is that? And she works her way. She looked me over good, and then she works her way up to me. She says, "Is that you?"
I said, are you?
"I think so." So we went home.